We are starting, or actually toward the end of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're on page 945. And the Ramakrishna is suffering. It's toward the end of his life. He's been transferred to a home that the devotees have rented for him in Kasipur to get him outside of the city and to give him some quiet and some peace and a place where they could support all the people that were coming to volunteer and take care of him. And all the doctors that were coming to see him. And they've been sitting together here and talking, making comments. It's a Monday. And Sri Ramakrishna has gone into samadhi several times, has given some instructions from that position, and has now, after some playful chat, has asked Narendra to sing him a song, Vivekananda. And so Sri Ramakrishna asks Narendra to sing. Narendra intones a hymn. His mind is full of renunciation. He sings, "Unsteady is water on a lotus leaf. Just as unsteady is the life of man. One moment with a sadhu is the boat that takes one across the ocean of this world." Narendra had hardly finished one or two of the lines when Sri Ramakrishna says to him by a sign, "What are you singing? That's a very insignificant attitude, a very commonplace thing," which is an interesting thing. I don't ever remember reading this little part here. But how, and it really is. I mean, Vivekananda is talking about something that happens at the very beginning, that you come to realize your short, well, not short life. Well, it is short life, actually, come to think of it. It gets shorter as you get older. And but that's that, and that this awakens in us some kind of awareness. Well, it's an awareness, but we're not sure what we're aware of. Something about that drives us to look for a solution. I always like to think that's our growing faith in what we bring into the world with us. This knowledge of our immortality, this knowledge of our freedom and our perfection. None of those attributes belong to the creation. And that's it. And it'll always be a combination of that. There'll never be anything more interesting than that here. And after some time of awareness, we become aware of this. But this is the beginning of spiritual life. And then he says, one moment with a sadhu is a boat that takes you across the ocean of the world. Just one moment with a spiritual practitioner, and presumably an advanced one, a sadhu, someone who's wandering and looking for God alone. And that just one moment with that sadhu can be the boat that takes you across the world. That one influence can change something, can click something in you, and set you off on a journey that takes you home, takes you the rest of your days in a way that you hadn't imagined. So now Narendra sings about the love of Krishna, impersonating one of his handmaids. How strange, O friend, are the rules of life and death. The youth of Braja has fled away, and this poor maid of Braja soon will die. Madhava is in love with other maids, more beautiful than I. Alas, he has forgotten the milkman's artless daughter. Who would ever have guessed, dear friend, that he, a lover so tender, a lover so divine, could be a beggar simply for outward charm? I was a fool not to have seen it before, but carried away by his beauty, I yearned alone to hold his 2 feet to my breast. Now I shall drown myself in the Jamuna's stream, or take the draught of poison, friend, or I shall bind a creeper around my neck. I'll hang myself from a young tamala tree, or failing all of these, destroy my wretched self by chanting Krishna's name. Sri Ramakrishna and the devotees are greatly moved by the song. The master and Rakal shed tears of love. Narendra is intoxicated with the love of the gopis of Braja for their sweetheart, Sri Krishna, and sings, O Krishna, beloved, you are mine. What shall I say to you, O Lord? What shall I ever say to you? Only a woman am I, and never fortune's favorite. I do not know what to say. You are the mirror for the hand, and you are the flower for the hair. O friend, I shall make a flower of you, and I'll wear you in my hair. Under my braids I will hide you, friend. No one will see you there. You are the betel leaf for the lips, the sweet collyrium for the eyes. O friend, with you I shall stain my lips, with you I shall paint my eyes. You are the sandal paste for the body. You are the necklace for the neck. I shall anoint myself with you, my fragrant sandal paste, and soothe my body and my soul. I shall wear you, my lovely necklace, here about my neck, and you will lie upon my bosom, close to my throbbing heart. You are the treasure in my body. You are the dweller in my house. You are to me, O Lord, what wings are to the flying bird, what water is to the fish. I was really touched by that first part of the song there, where it's one of the milkmaids, singing to Krishna, and she can't get his attention. There's the other milkmaids singing there and are there with him, and they're getting more attention. And she, of course, is projecting a story, projecting an insecurity and thinking, oh, I'm not pretty enough. Oh, he's, fooled by their beauty and not mine. But I really love her solution here at the end. Of course, she goes into that drama there. I'm going to commit suicide. I'm going to throw myself off all these things. But she gets to the truth here at the end, which is most beautiful, where she says, destroy my wretched self by chanting Krishna's name. In there is a very big clue, that wretched self is that ego that is accusing her of not being enough for Krishna. It is the ego in her that is confusing her and telling her that she's not worthy of her lover, and that it is her lover who doesn't want her because of her imperfections. And just her stumbling on the absolute perfect thing in the end there, I will destroy that wretched self. She says, my wretched self, but that will change. She says, I'm going to destroy that wretched self by chanting Krishna's name. That this is the way that the ego falls. The accuser, that insecurity, that thing that has made you feel small and has made you taste mortality and made you taste hunger and thirst and made you understand things that were completely and are completely unnative to you, things that have nothing to do with you. And then to just at the end hear these lovely words, of this love, how divine, the closer we draw to the divine at first, is something far away. It's always a promise, it's always a longing, it's always something, oh please, I would love to have that, right? And we work and we work and we go through this struggle that's been singing about here over and over and over again. But in the heart grows this beautiful attitude, not by knowledge or a secular knowledge or by information or even by practice. It comes by sincerely and earnestly placing yourself in the presence of your beloved consistently, even when the mind, even when that wretched self, the ego, doesn't want to do the meditation, doesn't want to do that stupid chanting, doesn't want to go to that place right now, I'd rather finish my game, or I don't want to do that. All of these things that we struggle with and fight with, they diminish, and over time we come to understand this intimacy with the divine, which is one in everything, that there is no separation, that it is everything that we look at, everything that any of our five senses take in, is the beloved, is directly Brahman. So we don't have to make this abstraction of Brahman somewhere else. Just don't limit him to only what you're seeing, tasting, touching, or smelling. That Brahman is everywhere, the beloved. That he is here, the mirror for the hand, you are the right, which is wonderful. that mirror for the hand, that way of seeing you, yourself. You are the reflection of God. That's why they talk about this image of the beloved that is our beginning, that is our creation. that image of God, which is the reflection, he, actually, that divine, is the one being reflected, right? And funny thing, you're not really in there at all, because God is being projected on the mind and reflected back to himself, but himself as he believes himself to be a body-mind. And so that reflection comes back to him. He doesn't recognize it, right? We always hear about, I came to the world and they didn't recognize me. Well, it's that. Right now, you are looking at the reflection of God. This everything is the vision of God in a mirror. And because you've identified, you aren't different from that. It is your reflection. But because of your confusion and identifying yourself with a body and with a mind in a particular, you look at this mirror in front of us and you say, no, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me. I can't see me, but I'm here, this is me. And everything is separate. And from that, we fall into this egoism and start the story over again. And so whenever you feel that drive, that accusation, those whatevers it is that stop you from practicing or believing or for trusting or from anything that takes away that inspiration that is so available when we pay attention, that you can then move through and come to this beautiful place. You are the treasure of my body. You are the dweller in my house. You are to me, O Lord, what wings are to the flying bird, what water is to the fish. Chapter 50, The Master and Buddha. It's Friday, April 9th, 1886. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Narendra and Kali, Niranjan and M were talking downstairs in the Kausipar garden house. Niranjan talking to M. Is it true that Vidyasagar is going to open a new school? Why don't you try to secure employment there for Naran? Narendra. I've had enough of service under Vidyasagar. Oh my. Narendra had just returned from a visit to the Bodh Gaya where he had gone with Kali and Tarak. In that sacred place, he had been absorbed in deep meditation before the image of Buddha. He had paid his respects to the Bodhi tree, which is an offshoot of the original tree under which Buddha attained nirvana. Kali said, one day at Gaya, at Umesh Babu's house, Narendra sang many classical songs to the accompaniment of the mridanga. Sri Ramakrishna sat on his bed in the big hall upstairs. It was evening. M was alone in the room, fanning the master. Latu came in a little later. Master to M. Please bring a chadar for me and a pair of slippers. Yes, sir. Master to Latu. The chadar will cost about 10 annas, and then the slippers. What will be the total cost? Latu. Oh, 1 rupee and 10 annas? Sri Ramakrishna asked M by a sign to note the price. Narendra entered the room and took a seat. Sashi, a Rakal, and 1 or 2 other devotees came in. The master asked Narendra to stroke his feet. He also asked him whether he had taken his meal. Master smiling to M. He went there, referring to Bodh Gaya. M to Narendra. What are the doctrines of Buddha? Narendra. He could not express in words what he had realized by his tapasya, so people say that he was an atheist. Master by signs. Why an atheist? He was not an atheist. He simply could not express his inner experiences in words. Do you know what Buddha means? It is to become one with Bodha, pure intelligence, by meditating on that which is of the nature of pure intelligence. It is to become pure intelligence itself. Narendra. Yes, sir. There are 3 classes of Buddhas, Buddha, Arhat, and Bodhisattva. Master. This too is a sport of God himself. a new Leela of God. Why should Buddha be called an atheist? When one realizes Swarupa, the name of the true nature of oneself, one attains a state that is something between asti, is, and nashti, is not. Narendra to M. It is a state in which contradictions meet. A combination of hydrogen and oxygen produces cool water, and the same hydrogen and oxygen are used in an oxyhydrogen blowpipe. In that state, both activity and non-activity are possible. That is to say, one then performs unselfish action. This is very interesting. You know, I toy around, I shouldn't even mention it, because I know just enough to know nothing about this quantum physics. I was watching another lecture today by this the physicist who discovered actually the microchip, and he had a spiritual experience on a family vacation. He's not a spiritual, well, not a religious man, a deeply spiritual man though, because he got quite a bunch of information through this special experience that he talks about, and he's put together an entire theory of quantum physics around the nature of reality. He sees the oneness, or he saw the oneness of everything, and he saw that it was love that was the binding cable that drew everything together in all of that self. And then he says that you know that the nature of reality. This one comes from a New York Times article that I read. Is like a black ocean of goo, black goo, within which time passes forward and backward simultaneously and takes form only when observed. Right? And so there's an ocean where time and everything is swirling back and forth. Everything is in its formless state or its form state. If you look at it, if you observe it, it takes a form according to your expectations. And so here, the self is that quantum field, according to Fagin, that this quantum field, the soul is that quantum field. And I loved that idea. It was really exciting to me because of this notion that as long as we're in a deluded state, we see ourselves as a particular, a one amongst many, a one separate from the whole. In our true self, one of the reasons that it's so hard for us to meditate and come to this realization is how do you think of yourself as a field as opposed to a point? How do you see yourself as non-individual, but see yourself as the many? You know, the difference between us and the divine, a difference, or no difference, that's a weird place to start. But the difference, I'll just say and go with it, it makes no sense. The difference between us and God is none, I know that. But the difference between us and God is that in our dream, we move into a single body, and we are this body, and the rest of the dream becomes unknown to us and becomes the place of the narrative, right, where we work out the fun of the dream, whatever that is. When the divine dreams, which is what's happening now in what we experience as waking state, in this divine dream, God has become every character. And not just every character, but every atom and every point and every particle that's in the atom, and has full consciousness of that point and every point simultaneously. So there is no unknown to become a narrative. That's why he is all-knowing. There is no point of reference that he is not fully aware of. And so there cannot be a story. There cannot be a purpose. There cannot be a working out. Right? And that point of knowing is everywhere simultaneously. And so this is what's rolling around in the mind when he says, it is a state in which all of the contradictions meet. A combination of hydrogen and oxygen produces cool water, and that same hydrogen and oxygen are used in the oxygen-hydrogen blowpipe. Now, this could be a reference of all the numbers of ways that we use the one motivating power in the universe. Do you remember what that is? Love, right? Love is Vivekananda says, the one motivating universe in the power, motivating force in the universe. And that love can create beauty, and that love can create horror. But it's the same love. It's how the ego twists it or uses it or gives it a purpose different from its different, well, not different from its own. It can have any purpose. But it's always up to you when the world meets you as to what becomes of that meeting. You know, does the world become a difficult and a rough and terrible place for you? Or do you take it as a challenge and exert your inner force of love, wisdom, and being and create something beautiful out of it? You know, are you overcome easily because you're used to your ego beating you down and tearing you down and telling you that it's not enough? Or have you found the image of the beloved within you, which is the mark of grace, the mark of pure love? And that is your value, that is your success, that is your potential. And to base it here on that knowledge that I am the beloved, that I am love itself, wisdom itself, and that my intimacy with God is absolute. To stand upon that and to build your relationship with the beloved on that, and to find your realization through that, and not through the stress of a constant recording yourself and measuring yourself and finding yourself short. You know, no problem with that if you're doing it using scripture and an already healthy relationship with yourself and with the beloved. But if you don't have that, just hold on to God alone and know He is your ticket to the ball. And when anybody comes and asks you, you don't have to explain who you are and how you earned it and how you got here and why your dress looks this way and why this, that, and the other. You just pull out your ticket. I've been invited. I'm here because of the beloved, because grace has invited me here. Right? And so when we sit in the shrine, always know when you sit down, you've been invited. You've been invited and you've been given a very special grace to be here. Right? I always think that when I look out and see empty chairs, I think, gosh, this whole city, out of all of the city, just you have chosen to spend your Saturday evening this way. That's because you have a ticket. That's because the beloved has chosen you, in a sense, in this time, not in any way restricting anybody else, but for this time, to be here and to begin your practice and to start your walk or to continue your walk toward God. In that state, both activity and non-activity are possible. That is to say, one then performs unselfish action. Worldly people who are engrossed in sense objects say that everything exists, asti. But the Mayavadis, the illusionists, they say that nothing exists, nashti. The experience of a Buddha is beyond both existence and non-existence. Master, this existence and non-existence are attributes of Prakriti. The reality is beyond both. The devotees remained silent for a few moments. The master to Narendra, what did Buddha preach? Narendra, he did not discuss the existence or the non-existence of God, but he showed compassion for others all of his life. A hawk pounced upon a bird and was about to devour it. In order to save the bird, Buddha gave the hawk his own flesh. Sri Ramakrishna remained silent. Narendra became more and more enthusiastic about Buddha. Narendra, how great his renunciation was. Born a prince, he renounced everything. If a man has nothing, no wealth at all, and what does his renunciation amount to? After attaining Buddhahood and experiencing nirvana, Buddha once visited his home and exhorted his wife and his son and many others of the royal household to embrace the life of renunciation. How intense his renunciation was! But look at Vyasa's conduct. He forbade his son Sukadeva to give up the world and said, "My son, practice religion as a householder." Sri Ramakrishna was silent. And yet, he had not uttered a word. As yet, he had not uttered a word. Narendra, Buddha did not care for Shakti, nor any such thing. He sought only nirvana. Ah, how intense that dispassion is. When he sat down under the Bodhi tree to meditate, he took this vow, "Let my body wither away here if I do not attain nirvana." Such a firm resolve. This body indeed is the great enemy, Can anything be achieved without chastising it? Sashi. But it is you who say that one develops sattva by eating meat. You insist that one should eat meat. Narendra. I eat meat, no doubt, but I can also live on rice, mere rice, even rice without salt. After a few minutes, Sri Ramakrishna broke his silence. He asked Narendra by a sign whether he had seen a tuft of hair on Buddha's head. Narendra, no, sir. He seems to have sort of a crown. His head seems to be covered by strings of rudraksha beads placed on top of one another. Master, and his eyes? Narendra, they show that he is in samadhi. Sri Ramakrishna again became silent. Narendra and the other devotees looked at him intently. Suddenly a smile lighted his face, and he began to talk with Narendra. M was fanning him. Master, well, here you find everything, even ordinary red lentils and tamarind. Isn't that so? Narendra, after experiencing all those states, you are now dwelling on a lower plane. M to himself, yes. After realizing all those ideals, he is now living as a bhakta, a devotee of God. Master, someone seems to be holding me to a lower plane. Saying this, Sri Ramakrishna took the fan from M's hand and said, as I see this fan directly before me, in exactly the same manner have I seen God. And I have seen... With these words, he placed his hand on his heart. He asked Narendra by a sign, can you tell me what I said? Narendra, I have understood. Master, tell me. Narendra, I didn't hear you well. Sri Ramakrishna said again by a sign, I have seen that he and the one who dwells in my heart are one and the same person. Narendra, yes, Soham, I am he. Master, but only a line divides the two, that I may enjoy divine bliss. Narendra to M. Great souls, even after their own liberation, retain the ego and experience the pleasure of pain of the body, the pleasure and pain of the body, and they may help others to attain liberation. It is like a coolie work. We perform coolie work under compulsion, but great souls do it so of their own sweet pleasure. Again, all fell into silence. After some time, Sri Ramakrishna resumed the conversation. Master, to Narendra and the others, the roof is clearly visible, but it is extremely hard to reach it. Narendra, yes, sir. Master, but if someone who has already reached it drops down a rope, he can pull another person up. Once a sadhu from Rishikesh came to Dakshineshwar. He said to me, how amazing! I find 5 kinds of samadhi manifested in you. Just as a monkey climbs a tree, jumping from one branch to another, so also does the Mahavayu, the great energy, rise in the body, jumping from one center to another, and one goes into samadhi. One feels the rising of the great energy as though it were the movement of a monkey. Just as a fish darts about in the water and roams in great happiness, so also does the Mahavayu move upward in the body, and one goes into samadhi. One feels the rising of the great energy as though it were this movement of a fish. Like a bird, hopping from one branch to another, the Mahavayu goes up in the tree of the body, now to this branch and now to that one. One feels the rising of the great energy as though it were the movement of a bird. Like the slow creeping of an ant, the Mahavayu rises from one center to center. When it reaches the Sahasrara, one goes into samadhi. One feels the rising of the great energy as though it were the movement of an ant. Like the wriggling of a snake, the Mahavayu rises in a zigzag way along the spinal column till it reaches the Sahasrara, and one goes into samadhi. One feels the rising of the great energy as though it were the movement of a snake. Rakal to the other devotees, let us stop here. He's already talked a great deal. It will aggravate his illness. Monday, April 12th, 1886. About 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Sri Ramakrishna is sitting on the bed in his room in Kasipur Garden House. Sashi and M are with him. He asked M by a sign to fan him. There was a fair in the neighborhood in celebration of the last day of the Bengali year. A devotee whom Sri Ramakrishna had sent to the fair to buy a few articles returned. What have you bought? The master asked him. Devotee, candy for 5 pice, a spoon for 2 pice, and a vegetable knife for 2 pice. Master, what about the penknife? Devotee, I couldn't get one for 2 pice. Master eagerly, well, go quickly and get one. M was pacing the garden. Narendra and Tarak returned from Calcutta. They had visited Girish Ghosh's house and other places. Tarak, we've eaten a great deal of meat and other heavy stuff today. Narendra, yes, our minds have come down a great deal. Let us practice tapasya. To M, what's slavery to body and mind? We're just like the coolies, as if this body and mind were not ours and belonged to someone else. In the evening, lamps were lighted in the house. Sri Ramakrishna sat on his bed facing the north. He was absorbed in the contemplation of the Mother of the universe. In a few minutes, Fakir, who belonged to the priestly family of Balaram, recited the hymn of forgiveness addressed to the Divine Mother. Sashi, M, and 2 or 3 other devotees were in the room. After the recital, Sri Ramakrishna, with folded hands, very respectfully bowed down to the deity. M was fanning Sri Ramakrishna. The master said to him by signs, get a stone cup for me that will hold 1/4 of a seer of milk, a white stone. He drew the shape of the cup with a finger. M, yes, sir. Master, when eating from other cups, I get the smell of fish. Tuesday, April 13th, 1886. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning. M had spent the night at the garden house, and after taking his bath in the Ganges, he prostrated himself before Sri Ramakrishna. Ram had just come. He saluted the master and took his seat. He had brought a garland of flowers, which he offered to the master. Most of the devotees were downstairs. Only 1 or 2 were in the master's room. Sri Ramakrishna was talking to Ram. Master, how do you find me? Ram, in you one finds everything. Presently there will be a discussion about your illness. The master smiled and asked Ram by a sign, will there really be a discussion about my illness? Sri Ramakrishna's slippers were not comfortable. Dr. Rajendra Dutta intended to buy a new pair and had asked for the measurement of his feet. The measurement was taken. Sri Ramakrishna asked M by a sign about the stone cup. M at once stood up. He wanted to go to Calcutta for the cup. Master, don't bother about it now. M, sir, these devotees are going to Calcutta. I'll go with them. M bought the cup in Calcutta and returned to Kasipur at noon. He saluted the master and placed the cup near him. So Sri Ramakrishna took the cup in his hands and looked at it. Dr. Rajendra Dutta, Dr. Srinath Rakal Halder, and several others came in. Rakal, Sashi, and the younger Naren were in the room. The physicians heard the report of the master's illness. Dr. Srinath had a copy of the Gita in his hand. Dr. Srinath to his friends, everything is under the control of Prakriti. Nobody can escape the fruit of past action. This is called Parabdha. Master, why, if one chants the name of God, meditates on him, and takes refuge in him. Dr. Srinath, but sir, how can we escape Parabdha, the effect of action performed in previous births? Master, no doubt a man has experiences. No doubt a man experiences a little of the effect, but much of it is cancelled by the power of God's name. A man was born blind of an eye. This was his punishment for a certain misdeed he had committed in his past birth, and the punishment was to remain with him for 6 more births. He, however, took a bath in the Ganges, which gives one liberation. This meritorious action could not cure his blindness, but it saved him from his future births. Dr. Srinath: but sir, the scriptures say that nobody can escape the fruit of karma. Dr. Srinath was ready to argue with the master. Master to M: why don't you tell him that there is a great difference between the Ishvarakoti and an ordinary man? An Ishvarakoti cannot commit sin. Why don't you tell him that? M remained silent and then said to M to Rakal, you tell him. After a few minutes, the physician left the room. Sri Ramakrishna was talking to Rakal Haldar. Dr. Srinath studies Vedanta. He is a student of the Yoga Vasishta. Master: a householder should not hold the view that everything is illusory like a dream. Referring to a man named Kalidas, a devotee said, he too discusses Vedanta, but he has lost all of his money in lawsuits. The master smiling. Yes, one proclaims everything to be Maya, and still one goes to court. Mukherjee of Chennai, too, has talked big. But at last he came to his senses. If I were well, I should have talked a little more with Dr. Srinath. Can you obtain jnana by just talking about it? Haldar: you are right, sir. I have seen enough of jnana, but all I need in order to live in this world is a little bhakti. The other day I came to you with a problem on my mind, and you solved it. Master eagerly: what was it? Haldar: sir, when that boy, pointing to the younger Naren, came in, you said that he had controlled his passions. Master: yes, it's true. He is totally unaffected by worldliness. He says he doesn't know what lust is. To M: just feel my body. All the hair is standing on end. The master's hair actually stood on end at the thought of a pure mind totally devoid of lust. He always said that God manifests himself where there is no lust. Rakal Haldar took his leave. Sri Ramakrishna was seated with the devotees. A crazy woman had been troubling everybody in order to see the master. She had assumed toward him the attitude of a lover, and often ran into the garden house and burst into the master's room. She had even been beaten by the devotees, but that did not stop her. Sashi: if she comes again, I will shove her out of this place. Master tenderly: no. Let her come and go away. Rakal: at the beginning, I too used to feel jealous of others when they visited the master. But he graciously revealed to me that my guru is the guru of the universe. He has taken this birth has he taken this birth for only a few of us? Right? And this is why Vivekananda warns, one of the first teachings in Bhakti Yoga. He says that, the master says that Bhakti Yoga is the fastest and the most effective way of reaching God or reaching your realization in these days, he says. And so he warns about this is where that extremism comes from, fundamentalism. It comes from this devotional aspect where you think that your wife is the one most beautiful wife and better than everybody else's, right? He says that you have to be careful of your devotion in the beginning because it will try and do that. And it will make you think that your way is the best way, that your divine beloved is the only divine beloved, the best divine beloved. And so he warns us about observing our attachments to Ramakrishna and understand just this here. Did he come just for one person? And what is his nature? I'm always enjoyed that story in the Bhagavatam where they're in the woods dancing around a fire and all the cowherd women or the cowherd girls are there, and Krishna is playing his flute and dancing around the fire. And it says in the scripture that all of the women felt that they were Krishna's favorite. And I always loved that notion because I thought, well, he is. They are. You know, Sri Krishna is God. He is unlimited love. And so for him to give you so much love that you know he's your favorite does not diminish him doing the same thing for everybody around you. You know, that this is a real celebration, that all of us are in fact God's favorite, and that there's nothing wrong, if you are so bold, to sit in front of your beloved and feel yourself the best, his favorite, his closest, because he has enough love for that. The trouble only comes, and you can find this out in the story that he tells in the Bhagavatam, because in the Bhagavatam, the way that little anecdote ends is he picks Radha up and carries her away from the fire and starts, you know, going off into the woods with her in his arms. And she thinks in her mind, I'm his real favorite. He picked me up and took me into the woods, you know, away from the others. And at that point, all of a sudden, Krishna's gone, and she just thuds to the ground, you know, and she's left laying there in the dirt in the woods with no one around. You see, it's egoism that drives us away from the beloved, that prevents us from experiencing that intimate love, right? Because it's the contrary to love. It limits love. It restricts love, right? That's why we don't love everybody. That's why we're practicing these things, you know. But it's our nature to love everybody, because we are everybody. We are not a particular. We're a quantum field. All right. We'll stop there for the day and get ready for Vespers here, 20 minutes.